Hello, welcome back to the Pull List. This is Matt, McKay, and Chris. Today we are coming at you with a Star Wars movie tier list. This is just our personal opinions on what we think. Excuse my dog in the background. Um, yeah, so we'll get that started here. Here we are. So to kick things off, if I can zoom in, hopefully. There we go. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
That's a D for me. I mean,
That is a definite D for me.
I enjoy it, but I enjoy it because it's bad. It's
Yeah, that's fair.
Saw it in the theaters the opening weekend, and I was just like, I'm never watching this again.
Yeah.
I I see it every once in a while, and it's one of those movies that you enjoy, but you also hate at the same time. It's
Yeah, no, I have a tradition where I watch all the Star Wars movies back to back once a year. So I forced to watch it once a year. So
Mhm.
over time, it's one of the movies that eventually grows on you.
and it's funny because Rise of Skywalker I found more and more minor things I enjoy about, but with The Last Jedi, I'm the opposite. I actually hate it more and more every time I watch it,
Yeah.
which is weird because everything else Ryan Johnson has directed is pretty great. But yeah,
Uh, Rogue One.
That's
uh,
A tier for me. It was really
that's
well written, and I really
A or
enjoyed
S,
it.
A or S for me.
I put it in S. I really like that one.
I think if either Gareth Edwards or Tony Gilroy had 100% control, it would have been perfect. If either one of them, but because they changed it at the last second with Tony Gilroy, it it felt a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Last Jedi is definitely a D for me.
yeah,
It flopped hard.
yeah. It's a really visually good looking film, but everything else about it, yeah.
I didn't like what they did with Snoke, so I put it in D. Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
I give it a B.
Yeah,
That's what I
B
was
for,
thinking.
I was thinking B.
Solo. I would put that in like S or A for me.
Solo. I mean, A or B for me.
I put it in A.
Empire Strikes Back. That's an S.
S. Phantom Menace is a C for me.
It's an
That's
A from me.
yeah, that's classic.
New Hope is S. That is the OG. You do not mess with the OG.
I would put it
Yeah,
in A or
I'd
B.
say I'd say A or S. I mean,
It is so slow
I
paced.
feel I feel like it should be in S, but at the same time, I don't like it as much as I do The Empire Strikes Back or Revenge of the Sith. So I'd say A.
Return of the Jedi.
It's an A for me.
That's an S for me. I really liked Return of the Jedi.
I mean,
Attack of the Clones.
I love it too, but it's one of those movies that if you because I like The Empire Strikes Back more, but at the same time I can't quite. They don't have S. They don't have S plus. So
Yeah,
Attack of the Clones is a C.
I would put it in B, but
I I'll put it in B. Revenge of the Sith is an S for me.
S. That's
S. Out of the prequels, that was the best one.
That was very quick.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the ranking of these.
Yeah, me too.
I second that.
All right. Yeah, that was super quick.
Yeah.
All right.
They got one for the shows too, or uh,
I can find one real quick here. I don't know if it has just the shows, but
I mean, I don't mind. We already picked the rankings for the movies, so
Let's just add to it.
yeah. Because the only if for an F tier, the only thing the only Star Wars thing I would put in an F tier would be Star Wars Resistance. It's the only Star Wars thing I've seen that's just painful to watch. Even the holiday special was more fun.
Yep, we could put that, and it's already at the front of the list. So let's go ahead and put Resistance at F. It's a failure.
all right. This one also has the movies, but we can just do that again
We
after.
could, yeah, we could put the movies.
Uh,
Mandalorian is S tier.
I agree.
See, we got Clone Wars season 5.
I'd put that as
I'll put that in A.
And there's
I think this is season 1. Can't really see it. Yeah,
it's season 1.
yeah, season 1.
that like probably a
I'd-
B or C.
I'd
I
put it in B.
I'm a C.
Season 2, probably the same place for me.
Season
The
2.
first 2 seasons just feels unfinished.
Season 2 was the first Star Wars thing I ever got on a Blu-ray.
The Clone Wars movie.
I mean, I like it, but it's probably a C.
It's a C for me. Solo, we already put as an A, I think.
Let's see, season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Oh,
That was S tier for me.
Yeah.
I cried at the end of that season.
A shame that they had that middle arc.
Do we remember? Is this B?
Yeah, it was B.
The SB.
Let's see, this is season 3. Yeah.
That's another B for me.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I mean,
Here we go. There's a New Hope. Revenge of the Sith was S.
this was a B,
B,
D.
D. I thought we put those in D tier.
Yeah, they're not they're bad, but they're not Resistance bad.
Is this B or A?
It was A.
I think it was A.
Star Wars Rebels.
Which season is it? Season 1. I put it
Season
in C.
1 at C. Season 2 was
I'll put it in like D.
Season 1 is C. It's not that bad. Jason Isaacs does a great Inquisitor.
Season 2 is also a C for me.
Yeah, I mean it has its highs, but it also has some really low lows.
Bad Batch was an A for me.
It was a B for me. I mean it has some great.
I really liked Bad Batch because of how dark and gritty it is.
Yeah, but like it flip flops between the most amazing and the most mediocre Star Wars. Season 2 is even worse there.
Mm.
The last 2 episodes were great, but a lot
Season
of
6 of the Clone Wars is an A for me.
yeah, it's an A.
Visions. I really liked Visions. I would put it as an A.
I put it in
Yeah.
S. I thought it was
Yeah,
super refreshing.
Yeah, it was pretty genius. Rebel season 3, that'd be.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
No, I'd say A. They did Thrawn so well.
Resistance again is F.
Yeah. Season 4, that's S of Rebels.
That is S.
Clone Wars season 4.
I'll put that in like A or S even.
Yeah,
Season 4 is F's for Clone Wars. It was the best season out of it. It was one of the best.
the Umbara arc is phenomenal.
Book of Boba Fett, that is not as good as Mandalorian.
I'd say C. I mean,
I would
it's.
I was gonna
say
put it as A.
I would thinking B.
I was thinking, I was thinking C because the production value is so cheap. The story feels so undercooked, and yeah,
Hmm.
it,
I was thinking B because it has some good elements, but not
I,
a lot. They
yeah.
had to bring Mando in for a good chunk of the show, I felt, to kind of boost it
Mhm.
up a little bit.
The whole thing felt like it started off as a script to like a 2, 3 episode arc of The Mandalorian that they expanded into a miniseries and didn't properly cook up.
I get that. I mean, this whole show was supposed to be taken out like a long time after the events of what happened, everything before that, right? Or after what happened with Darth Vader. So this whole point of him is building up to him, like when he takes over, um,
Mhm.
like Jabba's palace. That's a ballsy move on his part.
Yeah, and then they did nothing with it. The show basically did nothing
That was
with
at the
it.
end of the show, right? The whole show was leading up to that, and having Black Krrsantan in there, who's
Uh,
known for going toe to toe against Luke Skywalker. Like hell yeah.
All right,
that
yeah,
was
we can put it in A.
yeah, okay.
Mandalorian again, S tier.
Yes.
Empire is S.
This is Return of the Jedi.
That's Return of the
That
Jedi.
that's A, I think.
A.
But yeah, by rights it should be S, but
All right. Yeah,
yeah.
that's that.
I'm pretty
I
happy with it.
would, I personally would rank these maybe a little bit different, but that's just
Yeah.
me.
I mean, I'd probably do things a bit differently. I think I would rank Clone Wars season 5 a little bit. I would rank it S, but
That's this one here, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because it had the the Lawless arc, the one where Death Watch and Maul
Yeah.
team up, and
I would rank Solo as.
yeah,
I rank Attack of the Clones A.
the Battle of Geonosis was
They
awesome.
expanded on way too much, and it really wasn't that bad.
Oh, it definitely doesn't
Bad
deserve.
Batch, I think, needs to be higher than a B. I really like the Bad Batch.
Uh,
It's really well written, and there are aspects in the Bad Batch that dive into the much darker aspects
Mhm.
of what happened after the Clone War.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's pretty fair.
and of
Um,
course, it's really hard to really judge each season of a show because, especially with Clone Wars, because it's anthological in nature. It's each each episode or 2, 3, 4 episode arc is its own story, so you can't really judge an entire season on it.
yeah,
And
But
not just that, if you look at the first three seasons of the Clone Wars, it's all out of order.
yep, that too. Hell, if you even think about it, the Clone Wars movie wasn't even supposed to be a movie originally. It was supposed to be the first 4 episodes of season 1, which is why it's structured so weirdly.
Clone Wars is one of those shows that it really got away from the direction they were originally going to take it.
Yeah.
But it just took such a strong liking with the fans that they just had to kind of run with it.
Mhm. I,
Um, yeah,
I think The Mandalorian did the same because from the first few episodes of season 1, it's a lot more low stakes than it ended up being.
yeah,
I mean, you can tell that Grogu, Baby Yoda, was supposed to actually leave for good in season 2 when they decided because of the popularity to bring him back for no reason
yeah.
in another show. Yeah.
That's fair. I also feel like Clone Wars is one of those shows that just the seasons get better the more the show goes on.
And Clone Wars, like
Season 7 of the Clone Wars was the best season, in my opinion.
Oh, it definitely was because we knew exactly what it was leading up to.
Yeah.
It was
And at the very end of it, I was bawling like a baby.
one thing I wondered. I heard that originally when George Lucas was still working on the show before he sold Star Wars, he was going to have Ahsoka Tano killed off in Order 66. That would have been an interesting
I've heard that theory before, but I have a counter theory. Because there was a novel written with Luke's Jedi Order that was supposed to be Legends continuity, and it had Ahsoka on Luke's Jedi Council.
Was it? Because that would completely contradict like 20 years worth of
Well,
Jedi
it
Order.
was like I said, it was a Legends continuity novel.
Yeah, but I was saying the Legends, the post Return of the Jedi Legends continuity was pretty detailed, especially the rise of the new Jedi Order. And
I agree, but but it would have been kind of taken place right after Luke marries Mara.
right,
But it wouldn't have been kind of it was supposed to be that she was on the council, but the main gist of the novel was that it would not have taken away from what has already been done.
yeah, but
It was just introducing her as a character that they could have explored new kind of stories with her characters set post Return of the Jedi.
yeah. But like the new Jedi Order series, which takes place several years after they got married, there wasn't a Jedi Council, and the whole plot of there was a whole subplot in the first few books about how Luke wanted to restore the Jedi Council, and there was some debate about whether he should because they didn't want the Jedi to have too much autonomy because the Jedi, some of the younger ones were enjoying their freedom too much and acting too much like vigilantes. And
Yeah,
so he ended up compromising and making a Jedi Council that had half the members Jedi and the other half actual government officials. But yeah, and that was because he didn't know how the old Jedi did it. So having a character from the old Jedi Order in it would kind of undermine that.
I agree, but I also kind of disagree.
Hmm.
Um, and I say that I did the reason why I disagree. It would have connected, in my opinion, it would have connected the circle
Yeah. The
in
fate
a
of
lot of ways.
the fate of the Jedi book series eventually managed to somewhat connect back to the Clone Wars with in the last book when they revealed that Abeloth was connected to the ones from Mortis, which was pretty cool.
And I think if from what I heard and what I saw about where that novel would have fit in the post Return of the Jedi timeline, it would have taken place right between the Fate of the Jedi series arc,
Hmm.
and then but right after New Jedi Order.
But New Jedi Order that came out that took place long before Fate of the Jedi, like 20 years. But
Like I said,
yeah,
that
yeah,
that novel with Ahsoka would have taken place after that.
yeah. Okay, so right before the scrapped Sword of the Jedi trilogy, maybe.
Right before the Sword of the Jedi
Yeah,
trilogy.
she would have been really old by then. I mean,
Yes, but Torgrudas themselves tend to have a lot of longevity.
Yeah. And I mean, according to Dave Filoni, she lived past Rise of Skywalker, so in the new timeline, that is.
So it is entirely possible that Ahsoka would have been on the Jedi Council
Yeah,
in Legends continuity.
it's possible. She might have eventually found the new Jedi Order and rejoined them.
But there's other connections within that kind of time frame, both that post Return of the Jedi continuity. You have the story arc of Celeste Morn that connects back to the Old Republic era.
Yeah.
And the Mur Talisman, which connects not just the movies and the novels post Return of the Jedi, but it connects that back to KOTOR 1 and 2. The Mur Talisman was referenced in KOTOR 1, but you don't see it. It was referenced with the Rakghoul.
Yeah.
And then you see Celeste Morn face off against Darth Vader during the Imperial era.
And then she helps Kate Skywalker finish off Darth Krayt in the Legacy era. Yeah.
And she essentially sacrifices herself to destroy the Mur Talisman.
One thing I found interesting is that the longer the Clone Wars went on, the show, the harder it became to fit it into the Legends continuity. Which is
I disagree.
It's because of the Republic comics mostly. They established that the war had already been going on for 2.5 years when Anakin was knighted. But Anakin is already a Jedi Knight at the start of the show.
In Legends continuity, the Clone Wars starts episode 2, which takes place about 2 to 3 years before Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 3 years.
And Anakin would have been knighted about a year into that entire process.
Yeah.
So it does fit within that kind of continuity. And you could also look at, if you look at that comic series, there's also the Clone Wars animated shorts.
Those were actually those were done concurrently with the multimedia projects, which is why they fit in much better, even though they kind of contradicted stuff like Labyrinth of Evil, which was actually written before the last few episodes of the shorts. But yeah, because Labyrinth of Evil had Mace Windu crush Grievous's chest, they added that in the old cartoon.
Still,
down to writing, like it was stated early on in the Clone Wars series, I forget which season it was, but somebody mentioned that Obi-Wan was still a knight, and yeah, because like obviously you know that like knights can't have a Padawan or another knight as a Padawan, I guess.
Yeah.
Which would indicate that Obi-Wan and Anakin would both be knights at the same time, which wasn't the case because during the Clone Wars, I don't know when Obi-Wan became a master for sure.
I think he became a master. It was right after Anakin was knighted, but he was not initially on the council. He didn't get promoted to being on the council until, I would say, probably the start of the Clone Wars show where we see Ahsoka.
Yep.
Obi-Wan was on the council as a knight, though.
There's also,
it was shortly after Qui-Gon's death, he took the trials to become a knight, and it wasn't long after that he was put on the council.
He actually wasn't on the council until sometime in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
It was
I
he was
would
just
Yeah,
it
but
was
the
just
Clone Wars started like a year after Qui-Gon's death.
no, the Clone Wars didn't officially start until Geonosis.
yeah, it wasn't until the first battle of Geonosis. And from and the Clone Wars started, I want to say in 24 BBY. So
I think
24 years before the Battle of Yavin.
it was 22 PBY, and they ended in 19 PBY. That's the official.
So yeah.
But I think the best way to at least somewhat reconcile the multimedia project with the Clone Wars show is to imagine that years in the Star Wars universe are a bit longer than normal, especially because or at least are measured in different ways, because there's also a continuity error with the movies and the old Legends Thrawn trilogy books where they said the Clone Wars happened 40 years ago by the Noghri years.
Yeah. So time in Star Wars, there's no real basis.
Yeah.
I kind of look. You kind of have to look at it in terms of where do they fit in.
Yeah. And of course, with the Clone Wars, you just kind of have to pick and choose, because the first 3 seasons kind of fit in if you really squint, but in the later seasons, they start to kill off characters that are supposed to either already be dead or end up dying later, like Adi Gallia, who was killed by Savage Opress, and then a few months later would later be killed again by Grievous in a comic.
I mean, she still died in the Clone Wars. That's
Yeah.
down the table.
Yeah.
The whole point of the Clone Wars is to be taking place between episode 2 and 3.
One interesting thing I heard about a fan theory I heard about the Clone Wars show is that at least some of it, because it has that World War II style war presenter at the start of each episode, it's supposed to be taken like a propaganda movie about the Clone Wars, so not necessarily 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine it like it's something the New Republic cooked up, which is why the Republic wins almost every single battle in the Clone Wars show.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I kind of want to take a minute, because really briefly, I kind of want to talk about some of the stuff that we see kind of in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett for a second. Their rankings are staying put, but there's a lot of Legends continuity that has been brought to the forefront in those two shows. There's a lot of references to events that happened in Legends. I just watched the latest episode of Mandalorian season 3, but really great episode. But it meant when Din talks to Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan is talking about Mandalore the Great, and she also references Mandalore the Ultimate. Those are both Legends continuity characters.
Yep.
And she also references the Mandalore, the first Mandalorian, and that is another Legends continuity character. But you don't see that character until you don't see his character kind of talked about in Legends continuity unless you read the Darth Bane trilogy. And then his character is referenced.
Yep.
Another character that is referenced Mandalore the Redeemer.
Mhm.
That you see Mandalore the Redeemer in Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 with Canderous.
I thought he was, wasn't he? I thought he was the preserver. Mandalore the Preserver.
Yeah, you're right. You see him as the preserver.
Yeah.
But I got that backwards. It's the one that's after him. That's the Redeemer.
Yeah.
But but it's kind of interesting that you see the 3 of the Mandalorians in the Mandalorian line.
Yeah. And one thing I loved about season 2 of the Mandalorian was that Boba Fett's chain code mentioned Jester Mareel, which is actually a reference to 2 characters. One was Boba Fett, Jango Fett's mentor, who took him in after Death Watch murdered his parents, and the second one is Boba Fett. It was his secret identity when he took up civilian identity and tried to live a civilian life, which didn't end very well. Because when that story was written, his Attack of the Clones wasn't out yet, so that was his original backstory, that he was a former Mandalorian. What was it? Can't remember what they were called. Not quite a stormtrooper, but like a cop.
It was they were. I'm trying to think. I know what you're talking about. And what they were never stormtroopers. They were higher than a stormtrooper. I think, but they weren't death troopers. It was whatever Garth Saxon was.
Yeah, it was Journeyman Protectors or something like that. That was something like that. The same thing that Fan Rao is in Rebels. And yeah, that didn't end well. But so he left behind his ex-wife and his newborn daughter, who I'm actually hoping to see in either The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett eventually.
All right, I think we should start wrapping up here. We're
Yeah.
not terribly long on time.
Yeah, we got a bit off track.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I would like to point out real quick that I don't know if you've read the novel for Revenge of the Sith, but something that was very different what they did in the movie was when they had Anakin and his battalion just straight up march up the steps to the temple. In the novel, that did not happen. It was very descriptive about how that whole thing happened. Like Anakin was very quick. It sounds a little bit weird, but he was very quiet with it. So it was pretty much just like an in and out thing, like slaughter the Jedi and left. Like
Mhm.
it was very quick when it happened.
It
is referenced about how quick it occurred within the original Battlefront 2 game.
Yeah. But in the Revenge of the Sith movie, they made it seem like it was more of a fight that happened there, which, like, don't get me wrong, they definitely did retaliate when that happened, but it wasn't as large scale as it made it seem to be.
Yeah. In fact, the way it's described in the book, the entirety of Order 66 just happens in a matter of a few minutes, at least the initial thing.
Yeah.
It's described as the climax of the Clone Wars. It's not a thrilling climax, but yeah, damn it, I wish I had the book right here.
Yeah, no, it's as twisted as it sounds, it is probably my favorite climax of Star Wars history. It is the most upsetting and gut-wrenching thing to watch over and over again. Every time it's referenced, it kills me. But it's told very well, and I like that a lot about Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go on a quick tangent to kind of end us. Yeah, it kind of reminds me novelizations. I think that we need to do that next. Of like video, there's like right now I'm reading through Halo the Flood. Halo the Flood is entirely different than Combat Evolved. Combat Evolved is the video game, but Halo the Flood is the novelization version of the Combat Evolved game. So I think we should kind of look at that for our next kind of poll list. Maybe do it as like a debate. Pick a couple of different like books. Are they
Yeah.
better than the movies, or is the movie better?
Here is the passage. Order 66 is the climax of the Clone Wars. It's not a thrilling climax. It's not the culmination of an epic struggle. Just the opposite, in fact. The Clone Wars were never an epic struggle. They were never intended to be. This is about the Order 66.
So I think that we should do next weekend. We should do that as like a debate. Like
That'd
I
be
said, like we could
fun.
look at, and I'm gonna end this kind of tangent really quick here. Like do a debate or kind of like a discussion. What are some like novels that are better than the video game, TV show, or movie?
Mhm.
That
Novelizations or if it's a movie.
novelizations,
Okay,
novelization.
not something like Jurassic Park where the book came first,
Actually, no, we can do that too.
because those are some pretty interesting differences, because I love both the
Oh yeah,
movie and the book.
and we're kind of getting short on time, so I kind of want
Yeah.
to wrap this up. So kind of like doing, is the novel better than the movie, or so the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Halo the Flood, which is the novelization of Halo Combat Evolved, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, things like that.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's something we can do. We can discuss that more another time. Right now, we are less than a minute. So don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. We'll come out with another video at some point. This will be uploaded hopefully later on in the week, if not next weekend. Until then, goodbye.